Hey guys! So I made a couple of videos about concert photography in the past, and I'll put a link to a couple of those, both of those, all the videos about concert photography. But a friend of mine, Sam, she actually asked me to do a video all about wedding photography because I do that too. And for those of you who want to get into that, I could give you some like tips, stuff that I've figured out over the last several years doing this. I don't do it a lot, and I haven't worked out all the bugs, and I still take way too many photos, so I don't know everything, but these are the things that I do know. Tip number 1, get the most fucking comfortable camera bag you possibly can that can hold as much stuff as possible. I've gone through a couple different bags. I used to have my little crumpler bag, which didn't hold a lot of things, but when I first shot weddings, I didn't really have a lot of equipment. But now I actually have 2 large bags. I have my backpack that I use for Sasquatch, and then I still have my Tamrac shoulder bag, which I can imagine is easier for weddings. I'm not going to be walking as much nearly, and it is easier to access right there. So I suggest trying out a bunch of different bags. I like the idea of a messenger bag because you can carry it with you and it's easier just to like switch things out real fast rather than like taking off your backpack and like moving things. If you can afford multiple bodies, get multiple bodies. I cannot afford multiple bodies just because I haven't really been able to save enough, and I've just not really thought about buying a second camera. But if you can afford 2 bodies, get 2. Put a short lens on one, put a zoom lens on the other. You don't have to switch lenses and you're fine. Tip number 2, bring too many memory cards. I have 2 32GB memory cards because I use them obviously for filming, so I don't actually have smaller memory cards that I use. I have like an 8GB that I rarely take with me because I have my 32s and I never fill them up. But bring so much memory when you first start out because you're going to be taking way too many photos. You do not want to run out of camera space. That happened to me one time and it was the worst, and I was like going through and like deleting unnecessary like dark photos of like dancing people to get more photos of dancing people, and it was a nightmare. And that's before I had my 32GB cards, so bring more than you think you need. Also, bring more batteries than you think you might need. Depending on your camera and depending on how old it is and how long the battery life is, bring, I would say, at least 2 batteries. I have a battery pack attached to my camera, so I rarely actually have to switch up my batteries because I have 2 going in there at one time. So as long as all your batteries are charged and you have an extra one, you should be totally fine. So bring more batteries than you think you might need, honestly. Now, besides all that equipment mumbo-jumbo stuff, when you're actually trying to get gigs and to get experience, I would start out just by taking friends' photos, friends that are getting married, ask them if they want somebody there to like take pictures that's maybe not the official shooter, or if somebody you know is getting married and they aren't as like worried about photos and maybe they just don't really want to pay for anything, if they're like going real cheap and you're just like, oh, I could take them like pro bono and to get experience. Obviously, if you have experience doing like portraits and events photography, that's going to come into effect with how you're going to market yourself and how you're going to charge people, because you obviously have experience in similar aspects of photography. You might just not have done a wedding before. And if you haven't done a wedding before, I would kind of hop on as a second shooter with somebody that you already know who does weddings. My friend Lindsay did that. A friend of hers was getting married and she had never shot a wedding, and she asked me to be the second shooter because I had experience. And I was like, I'll totally do that. That's fine. So getting people that you know who might be photographers, kind of just hopping on and shadowing them, maybe being their assistant, and then just having a camera yourself as a second shooter, that's an incredibly valuable experience. I never really got that before I started shooting weddings. Basically, I took pictures of my friends just like at things, and then my friend Lindsay was like, hey, I'm getting married, I really like your style, do you want to shoot my wedding? And I'm like, sure. And then I did their engagement photos first, which is always a good idea too, just to kind of like figure out how you vibe with the couple too. If like you get to know them like early on enough after they've got engaged, be like, do you guys want to do engagement photos too? Which comes to my next point. Obviously set up a one or multiple like consultations with them about just like what they want, what kind of style they like, what the whole big picture is, like how many people, how long the wedding is. Obviously that's going to have to do with how much you charge them, what their plan is, if they have any like specific ideas for photos. The last wedding I photographed, the couple were huge Disney nerds, and the bride had this idea for a Cinderella type photo with like her shoe, which was kind of like a glass slipper, and I was like, say no more, girl, I know exactly what you're saying. Yes, we can do it. So getting those kind of noted in your head are a really good idea, because it just makes them really happy. Like, your goal is to make them happy, and if they have any specific requests, you obviously want to fulfill those specific requests. This is not really going to be so organized, but going off of the last point, when you do shoot a wedding, network with all of their friends at the actual wedding. Like, make friends, talk to people, maybe the bridesmaids and the groomsmen if they're engaged at all. My ex-boyfriend's coworker got married several years ago, and I photographed her wedding. And then her sister got married like a year and a half later, and I photographed her wedding. And then that one of that girl's friends was the previous wedding that I shot, the Disney nerds. So I got like 3 weddings because of one connection that I had with my ex-boyfriend. When you're trying to figure out the logistics of like how you're gonna charge them, how you're gonna get the photos to them, just contract wise, it's all about what you're comfortable with. A lot of people tell me that I undercharge for weddings, but it makes me feel more comfortable when I don't charge people a lot, because I know a lot of people that have come to me don't have a huge amount of money, a huge budget to spend on weddings. So I would feel bad charging them a lot more. So I probably lowball them. I probably lowball people, which I'm okay with. So it all depends on what you're comfortable with, what your experience is, and how I do it. I always meet with the couple first, and then I ask them all about like how long it's gonna be, how many people, what their expectations are, and then I kind of give them a final price. This last wedding that I just am finishing editing, I'm probably gonna have about 300 photos for them, because they were so like just friggin' photogenic and beautiful. But when I give them my photos, I actually don't go through a printer. I just give them a USB drive with all the edited photos, and then they can print them if they want. And that's another way that I keep the prices lower, and less daunting for them, because I know printing is super expensive and has a lot to do with how much people charge if they are charging for printing. So I just get a USB drive, put the photos on there, mail it to them, and then they have it, and they can do what they want with the digital copies, and it's easier for them, it's easier for me. If you get a chance, scope out the location so you get like a good idea of where to shoot, and then what time of the night you're going to be shooting. Obviously it's going to be different if it's during the day than at nighttime. You'll have to bring different lenses, and you'll have to bring a flash if it's at nighttime. I would invest in a low f-stop just because flash does tend to flatten things out if you can help it. Get an idea of where photos look the best and at what time of day. And that way you have less shadows and it's just less unpredictable. And read the Farmer's Almanac for when the wedding is so you can get an idea of the weather, because depending on the year, depending on the time of the year, it might be raining. So staying organized is basically the most important thing. Like, get like an idea of a shot list from the couple, or the wedding coordinator. That way you have it on you so you don't forget anything. If they have a big family, obviously it's going to be more complicated because you have more people to kind of like shuffle in and shuffle out. So having like a strict list of like shots that you need to get, such a wonderful resource, because it takes so much stress off of you, stress off of this, and that way you have a list of things that you can just like check off when you have it and like mentally check them off. Maybe a friend that's in the wedding party or not in the wedding party to kind of help kind of corral people when it comes time to take photos, to like keep time and to keep just everybody on task, is really helpful if you're shooting by yourself. If you're shooting with 2 people, obviously that'll be easier to keep people on task because you'll have like 4 hands. So we have like logistics, marketing yourself, camera equipment, photos. Take so many photos when you first start out, because the more you have, the more chances you're gonna get a great shot. I still take too many. I took like 3,800 at this last wedding, which is too many fucking photos. Like, I have a friend who's like, oh, I only shoot like 1,000 to 1,500. I'm like, how do you do that? How do you do that? I'm notorious for just taking too many shots. So start with a lot and then kind of like wither down how many you actually need to take. It's easier that way. That way you don't worry about like having like enough shots. But while you're there, just like relax. Obviously, keep people on task. Obviously, like stay the course and like know what you're doing. But if they let you eat, just like chill out for a while, because nobody wants pictures of themselves eating anyway. So like have a drink, eat some food, make sure to stay hydrated, because you'll forget to eat and to drink things while you're working. Especially if it's like a 10-hour wedding, you're like, I haven't eaten in like 7 hours and I haven't drank any water and I'm dehydrated. The last thing you want to do is get sick while you're photographing a wedding, because it's a fucking nightmare. I think I covered it all. It was really in no particular order. The only other thing I can think of is like get an idea of how close you can get during the ceremony. If it's in a church, obviously you're gonna have like pews and things in the way. So ask like the officiant or the couple, the people who like work at the church, ask them what kind of their policy and like how close you can get. If you kind of have free reign, go crazy. Not get like too distractingly close, but stay respectful of the ceremony, but get as close as you can to get the best shots. Some places it's more complicated than others. That's why I like keeping a long lens on me, so I'm not like distracting the people and I'm not in people's way. You want to get all the action, but you don't want to be the action. That's a good motto. Get all the action, but don't be the action. What was this? I don't know what this was. I can't think of anything else. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comments below. I hope this was helpful to you, Sam, and good luck photographing your first wedding. Good luck to any of the rest of you who want to shoot weddings. But today's song of the day, I'll actually make it this song that it wasn't the first dance song, but it was like a song that the couple at the last wedding I shot had. It was a Shut Up and Dance by Walk the Moon, and it was actually really cute because when I left her house when they were getting ready, when we were driving to the actual venue, that song came right on the radio and I was like, it's a sign, yo, it's a sign. I hope this was helpful, and go forth, take photos, don't stress out, take way too many, have enough batteries, and wear fucking comfortable shoes, for the love of God.